It had become popular to declare that God is dead. So, the alternative rites that LaVey worked out, while still maintaining some of the trappings of ancient ceremonies, were changed from a negative mockery to positive forms of celebrations and purges, satanic weddings consecrating the joys of the flesh, funerals devoid of sanctimonious platitudes, lust rituals to help individuals attain their sex desires, destruction rituals to enable members of the Satanic Church to triumph over enemies. On special occasions such as baptisms, weddings, and funerals in the name of the devil, press coverage, though unsolicited, was phenomenal. By 1967, the newspapers that were sending reporters to write about the Church of Satan extended from San Francisco across the Pacific to Tokyo and across the Atlantic to Paris. A photo of a nude woman, half covered by a leopard skin, serving as an altar to Satan in a LaVey-conceived wedding ceremony, was transmitted by major wire services to daily newspapers everywhere, and it showed up on the front page of such bulwarks of the media as the Los Angeles Times. As the result of the publicity, grottos, LaVey's counterpart to covens, affiliated with the Church of Satan spread throughout the world, proving one of LaVey's cardinal messages: the devil is alive and highly popular with a great many people. Of course, LaVey pointed out to anyone who would listen that the devil to him and his followers was not the stereotyped fellow cloak in red garb, with horns, tail and pitchfork, but rather the dark forces in nature that human beings are just beginning to fathom. How did LaVey square that explanation with his own appearance at times in black cowl with horns? He replied, people need ritual, with symbols such as those you find in baseball games or church services or wars, as vehicles for expending emotions they can't release or even understand on their own. Nevertheless, LaVey himself soon tired of the games. There were setbacks. First, some of LaVey's neighbors began complaining about the full-grown lion he was keeping as a house pet, and eventually the big cat was donated to the local zoo. Next, one of LaVey's most devoted witches, Jane Mansfield, died under a curse he had placed on the head of her suitor, lawyer Sam Brody. For a variety of reasons I have explained in The Devil's Avenger, LaVey had persistently warned her away from Brody and felt depressed over her death. It was the second tragic death in the 60s of a Hollywood sex symbol with whom he had been intimately involved. The other was Marilyn Monroe, LaVey's paramour for a brief but crucial period in 1948 when he had quit the carnival and was playing organ for strippers around the Los Angeles area. On top of all that, LaVey was tired of organizing entertainments and purges for his church members. He had gotten in touch with the last living remnants of the pre-war occult fraternities of Europe, was busily acquiring their philosophies and secret rituals left over from the pre-Hitler era, and needed time to study, write and work out new principles. He had long been experimenting with and applying the principles of geometric spatial concepts in what he terms the law of the trapezoid. He scoffs at current faddists who are barking up the wrong pyramids. He was also becoming widely sought as speaker, guest on radio and television programs, and production and/or technical advisor to scores of television producers and movie makers, turning out satanic chillers. Sometimes he was also an actor. As sociologist Clinton R. Sanders points out, no occultist has had as direct an impact upon formulaic cinematic presentations of Satanism as has Anton Szandor LaVey. Ritual and esoteric symbolism are central elements in LaVey's church, and the films in which he has had a hand contain detailed portrayals of satanic rites and are filled with traditional occult symbols. The emphasis upon ritual in the Church of Satan is intended to focus the emotional powers within each individual. Similarly, the ornate ritualism that is central to LaVey's films may reasonably be seen as a mechanism to involve and focus the emotional experience of the cinema audience. At last, LaVey decided to transfer rituals and other organized activities to Church of Satan grottos around the world and devote himself to writing, lecturing, teaching, and to his family, wife Diane, the blonde beauty who serves as high priestess of the church, raven-haired daughter Carla, now in her early 20s, a criminology major like her father before, spending much of her time lecturing on Satanism at universities in many parts of the country, and finally Zena, remembered by people who saw the famous photo of the Satanic church baptism as a tiny tot, but now a gorgeously developed teenager attracting a growing pack of wolves, human male variety. Out of LaVey's relatively quiescent period came his widely read, pioneering books, first, the Satanic Bible, which at this writing is in its 12th edition, and this is my second, revised introduction, after having written the original introduction to the first edition. Second, the Satanic Rituals, which covers more of the somber, complex material LaVey unearthed from his increasing sources. And third, The Complete Witch, a bestseller in Italy, but, sadly, allowed by its American publisher to go out of print with its potential unfulfilled. LaVey spreading out from organized church activities to writing books for worldwide distribution has, of course, greatly expanded Church of Satan membership. Satanism's growing popularity has naturally been accompanied by scare stories from religious groups complaining that the Satanic Bible now outsells the Christian Bible on college campuses and is a leading causative factor in youngsters turning away from God. And certainly one suspects that Pope Paul had LaVey in mind when he issued his worldwide proclamation 2 years ago that the devil is alive and a person, a living, fire-breathing character spreading evil over the earth. LaVey, maintaining that evil is live spelled backward and should be indulged in and enjoyed, answers the Pope and the religious scare groups this way. People, organizations, nations are making millions of dollars off us. What would they do without us? Without the Church of Satan, they wouldn't have anybody to rage at and to take the blame for all the rotten things happening in the world. If they really feel this way, they shouldn't have blown us out of proportion. What you really have to believe instead is that they are the charlatans, and they're really glad to have us around so they can exploit us. We're an extremely valuable commodity. We've helped business, lifted up the economy, and some of the millions of dollars we have generated have in turn flowed into the Christian church. We have proved many times over the 9 Satanic statement that says the church and countless individuals cannot exist without the devil. For that the Christian church must pay a price. The events that LaVey predicted in the first edition of the Satanic Bible have come to pass. Repressed people have burst their bonds. Sex has exploded, the collective libido has been released, in movies and literature, on the streets, and in the home. People are dancing topless and bottomless. Nuns have thrown off their traditional habits, exposed their legs, and danced the Missa Solemnis rock that LaVey thought he was conjuring up as a prank. There is a ceaseless universal quest for entertainment, gourmet foods and wines, adventure, enjoyment of the here and now. Humanity is no longer willing to wait for any afterlife that promises to reward the clean, pure, translate ascetic, drab spirit. There is a mood of neopaganism and hedonism, and from it there have emerged a wide variety of brilliant individuals, doctors, lawyers, engineers, teachers, writers, stockbrokers, real estate developers, actors and actresses, mass communications media people, to cite a few categories of Satanists who are interested in formalizing and perpetuating this all-pervading religion and way of life. It is not an easy religion to adopt in a society ruled so long by Puritan ethics. There is no false altruism or mandatory love thy neighbor concept in this religion. Satanism is a blatantly selfish, brutal philosophy. It is based on the belief that human beings are inherently selfish, violent creatures, that life is a Darwinian struggle for survival of the fittest, that only the strong survive and the earth will be ruled by those who fight to win the ceaseless competition that exists in all jungles, including those of urbanized society. Abhor this brutal outlook if you will. It is based, as it has been for centuries, on real conditions that exist in the world we inhabit rather than the mystical lands of milk and honey depicted in the Christian Bible. In the Satanic Bible, Anton LaVey has explained the philosophy of Satanism more profoundly than any of his ancestors in the Kingdom of Darkness, while describing in detail the innovative rituals and trappings he has devised to create a church of realists. It has been clear from the first edition that many people want to read this book to learn how to start satanic groups and ritualize black magic. The Satanic Bible and the Satanic Rituals are the only books that have demonstrated, in a way that is authentic and true to relevant traditions, how all of that can be done. There have been many imitators, never attributing their source, and with good reason, because once the shabbiness and shallowness of the imitators have been compared to LaVey's pioneering work, there can no longer be any market for the rip-off artists. The evidence is clear to any who are willing to view the record. Anton LaVey brought Satan out of the closet, and the Church of Satan is the fountainhead of contemporary Satanism. This book summarizes the message both convey and remains both challenge and inspiration, as timely today as when it was written. San Francisco, December 25, 1976, 11 Anno Satanas. Preface. This book was written because, with very few exceptions, every tract and paper, every secret grimoire, all the great works on the subject of magic, are nothing more than sanctimonious fraud, guilt-ridden ramblings and esoteric gibberish by chroniclers of magical lore unable or unwilling to present an objective view of the subject. Writer after writer, in efforts to state the principles of white and black magic, has succeeded instead in clouding the entire issue so badly that the would-be student of sorcery winds up stupidly pushing a planchette over a Ouija board, standing inside a pentagram waiting for a demon to present itself, limply tossing I Ching yarrow stalks like so many stale pretzels, shuffling pasteboards to foretell a future which has lost any meaning, attending seminars guaranteed to flatten his ego, while doing the same to his wallet, and in general making a blithering fool of himself in the eyes of those who know. The true magus knows that occult bookshelves abound with the brittle relics of frightened minds and sterile bodies, metaphysical journals of self-deceit, and constipated rule-books of Eastern mysticism. Far too long has the subject of satanic magic and philosophy been written down by wild-eyed journalists of the right-hand path. The old literature is the byproduct of brains festering with fear and defeat, written unknowingly for the assistance of those who really rule the earth, and who, from their hellish thrones, laugh with noisome mirth. The flames of hell burn brighter for the kindling supplied by these volumes of hoary misinformation and false prophecy. Herein you will find truth and fantasy. Each is necessary for the other to exist, but each must be recognized for what it is. What you see may not always please you, but you will see. Here is satanic thought from a truly satanic point of view. The Church of Satan, San Francisco, Walpurgisnacht 1968. Prologue. The gods of the right-hand path have bickered and quarreled for an entire age of earth. Each of these deities and their respective priests and ministers have attempted to find wisdom in their own lies. The ice age of religious thought can last but a limited time in this great scheme of human existence. The gods of wisdom defiled have had their saga, and their millennium hath become as reality. Each, with his own divine path to paradise, had accused the other of heresies and spiritual indiscretions. The ring of the Nibelungen doth carry an everlasting curse, but only because those who seek it think in terms of good and evil, themselves being at all times good. The gods of the past have become as their own devils in order to live. Feebly, their ministers play the devil's game to fill their tabernacles and pay the mortgages on their temples. Alas, too long have they studied righteousness, and poor and incompetent devils they make. So they all join hands in brotherly unity, and in their desperation go to Valhalla for their last great ecumenical council. Draweth near in the gloom the twilight of the gods. The ravens of night have flown forth to summon Loki, who had set Valhalla aflame with the searing trident of the inferno. The twilight is done. A glow of new light is born out of the night, and Lucifer is risen, once more to proclaim, this is the age of Satan. Satan rules the earth. The gods of the unjust are dead. This is the morning of magic and undefiled wisdom. The flesh prevaileth, and a great church shall be builded, consecrated in its name. No longer shall man's salvation be dependent on his self-denial. And it will be known that the world of the flesh and the living shall be the greatest preparation for any and all eternal delights. Regi Satanas. Ave Satanas. Hail Satan. The 9 Satanic statements. 1. Satan represents indulgence instead of abstinence. 2. Satan represents vital existence instead of spiritual pipe dreams. 3. Satan represents undefiled wisdom instead of hypocritical self-deceit. 4. Satan represents kindness to those who deserve it instead of love wasted on ingrates. 5. Satan represents vengeance instead of turning the other cheek. 6. Satan represents responsibility to the responsible instead of concern for psychic vampires. 7. Satan represents man as just another animal, sometimes better, more often worse than those that walk on all fours, who, because of his divine spiritual and intellectual development, has become the most vicious animal of all. 8. Satan represents all of the so-called sins, as they all lead to physical, mental, or emotional gratification. 9. Satan has been the best friend the church has ever had, as he has kept it in business all these years. Fire. The Book of Satan. The Infernal Diatribe. The first book of the Satanic Bible is not an attempt to blaspheme as much as it is a statement of what might be termed diabolical indignation. The devil has been attacked by the men of God relentlessly and without reservation. Never has there been an opportunity, short of fiction, for the dark prince to speak out in the same manner as the spokesman of the Lord of the righteous. The pulpit pounders of the past have been free to define good and evil as they see fit, and have gladly smashed into oblivion any who disagree with their lies, both verbally and, at times, physically. Their talk of charity, when applied to his infernal majesty, becomes an empty sham, and most unfairly, too, considering the obvious fact that without their satanic foe their very religions would collapse. How sad that the allegorical personage most responsible for the success of spiritual religions is shown the least amount of charity and the most consistent abuse, and by those who most unctuously preach the rules of fair play. For all the centuries of shouting down the devil has received, he has never shouted back at his detractors. He has remained the gentleman at all times, while those he supports rant and rave. He has shown himself to be a model of deportment, but now he feels it is time to shout back. He has decided it is finally time to receive his due. Now the ponderous rule books of hypocrisy are no longer needed. In order to relearn the law of the jungle, a small, slim diatribe will do. Each verse is an inferno. Each word is a tongue of fire. The flames of hell burn fierce and purify. Read on and learn the law. The Book of Satan. 1. In this arid wilderness of steel and stone I raise up my voice that you may hear. To the east and to the west I beckon. To the north and to the south I show a sign proclaiming death to the weakling, wealth to the strong. 2. Open your eyes that you may see, O men of mildewed minds, and listen to me, ye bewildered millions. 3. For I stand forth to challenge the wisdom of the world, to interrogate the laws of man and of God. 4. I request reason for your golden rule and ask the why and wherefore of your 10 commandments. 5. Before none of your printed idols do I bend in acquiescence, and he who saith, Thou shalt, to me is my mortal foe. 6. I dip my forefinger in the watery blood of your impotent mad Redeemer, and write over his torn brow the true Prince of Evil, the King of Slaves. 7. No hoary falsehood shall be a truth to me, no stifling dogma shall encramp my pen. 8. I break away from all conventions that do not lead to my earthly success and happiness. 9. I raise up in stern invasion the standard of the strong. 10. I gaze into the glassy eye of your fearsome Jehovah, and pluck him by the beard. I uplift a broad axe, and split open his worm-eaten skull. 11. I blast out the ghastly contents of philosophically whited sepulchres and laugh with sardonic wrath. The Book of Satan. 2. 1. Behold the crucifix, what does it symbolize? Pallid incompetence hanging on a tree. 2. I question all things. As I stand before the festering and varnished facades of your haughtiest moral dogmas, I write thereon in letters of blazing scorn, Lo and behold, all this is fraud. 3. Gather around me, O ye death-defiant, and the earth itself shall be thine, to have and to hold. 4. Too long the dead hand has been permitted to sterilize living thought. 5. Too long right and wrong, good and evil have been inverted by false prophets. 6. No creed must be accepted upon authority of a divine nature. Religions must be put to the question. No moral dogma must be taken for granted, no standard of measurement deified. There is nothing inherently sacred about moral codes. Like the wooden idols of long ago, they are the work of human hands, and what man has made, man can destroy. 7. He that is slow to believe anything and everything is of great understanding, for belief in one false principle is the beginning of all unwisdom. 8. The chief duty of every new age is to upraise new men, to determine its liberties, to lead it towards material success, to rend the rusty padlocks and chains of dead custom that always prevent healthy expansion. Theories and ideas that may have meant life and hope and freedom for our ancestors may now mean destruction, slavery, and dishonor to us. 9. As environments change, no human ideal standeth sure. 10. Whenever, therefore, a lie has built unto itself a throne, let it be assailed without pity and without regret, for under the domination of an inconvenient falsehood, no one can prosper. 11. Let established sophisms be dethroned, rooted out, burnt and destroyed, for they are a standing menace to all true nobility of thought and action. 12. Whatever alleged truth is proven by results to be but an empty fiction, let it be unceremoniously flung into the outer darkness, among the dead gods. Dead empires, dead philosophies, and other useless lumber and wreckage. 13. The most dangerous of all enthroned lies is the holy, the sanctified, the privileged lie, the lie everyone believes to be a model truth. It is the fruitful mother of all other popular errors and delusions. It is a hydra-headed tree of unreason with 1,000 roots. It is a social cancer. 14. The lie that is known to be a lie is half eradicated, but the lie that even intelligent persons accept as fact, the lie that has been inculcated in a little child at its mother's knee, is more dangerous to contend against than a creeping pestilence. 15. Popular lies have ever been the most potent enemies of personal liberty. There is only one way to deal with them: cut them out, to the very core, just as cancers. Exterminate them root and branch. Annihilate them, or they will us. The Book of Satan. 3.